Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for a video that will appear in two playlists here on the channel. The first will be the Hunger Games read-along series that was here on the channel. It was a multi-part series culminating with a book review of the book, and also the First Paragraphs playlist, in which I take a look at first paragraphs. And this first paragraph, obviously, is coming to us from Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games. And the first paragraph of The Hunger Games reads as such. When I wake up, the other side of the bed is cold. My fingers stretch out, seeking Prim's warmth, but finding only the rough canvas cover of the mattress. She must have had bad dreams and climbed in with our mother. Of course she did. This is the day of the reaping. One more time, just so we have it for context. When I wake up, the other side of the bed is cold. My fingers stretch out, seeking Prim's warmth, but finding only the rough canvas. The rough canvas cover. Let's start over. When I wake up, the other side of the bed is cold. My fingers stretch out, seeking Prim's warmth, but finding only the rough canvas cover of the mattress. She must have had bad dreams and climbed in with our mother. Of course she did. This is the day of the reaping. Now, I find that with this opening paragraph, there are two first things. There are two, this is the place where we start. So we're just going to have to take them in consecutive order. And the first thing that we have to come to is that this opening paragraph accomplishes a taste of normalcy before the call to action. Very, very important. Oftentimes when we're looking at fantasy or we're looking at science fiction, what we do is we start a novel or short story. There's a rich tradition of short stories in science fiction. I don't know much about the fantasy short story tradition. But what we do is we establish things with a taste of normalcy. We get someplace where we are rooted so that we might, in fact, tempt the reader in to believing he or she is part of the story. That's one of the key things to do with literature. Now, when we're talking about science fiction, oftentimes what we do is we lull the reader to sleep with the opening of the book in order, not in order to, but with common stuff, regular stuff, a peek at something normal, something regular in the scientific realm, something by which the reader will root themselves into the world where things are taking place. With fantasy, it's a little bit different. Instead of the world that we need people rooted into, we need our reader rooted into a character. Here, we set a very common scene. Someone waking up and reaching out for a person sleeping with them. In this case, a sibling. The second thing that happens here in that scene, the first thing that we noticed that this opening paragraph does, you don't feel very good for Katniss. You don't know that it's Katniss yet, but you don't feel very good for her or her family here. You understand these are hard times. This is a sad scene of terror, of sleeplessness, of poverty, and of a broken home. So a sad scene of terror. We understand that the sibling here, the character that we will learn in the second paragraph, is a younger sibling, had bad dreams. These bad dreams are related to something called the day of the reaping. There's terror there. We feel very bad initially for the sibling. It seems that our protagonist and the mother character have slept just fine. We are terrified initially for that other sibling, intuiting from this as a reader that it must be the other sibling who is in the danger. This is foreshadowing, because it is, of course, Prim who becomes the victim, the initial victim of the day of the reaping. We also get from this, we intuit, that if in fact both siblings are in danger, Katniss, who we don't know is Katniss yet, doesn't really give a damn. So as we learn slowly that both of those characters could have been drawn into the Hunger Games, we retroactively have to associate Katniss with a type of bravery that Prim does not have. Sleeplessness, because Prim was awake. Prim was awake so long that she had time to leave the bed while Katniss was deeply sleeping deeply enough that she did not notice someone exiting the bed and climbing in with her mother. Poverty, we have two signs of what might be poverty here. Well, technically three, but I think that the first one I'm going to mention, which is the least likely associated with an impoverished condition, might be done for effect. We're able to accept that it might be done for effect. When she reaches out and the bed is cold, this suggests that the bed is in a condition where it might grow cold in the lack of human heat. I think that it might just be done for effect and telling us about the situation more than poverty in general. But the second, canvas cover of the mattress. Doesn't sound very comfortable, does it? Sounds like someone might be living in conditions which are a little bit rougher than we would hope to find ourselves. But this canvas cover of the mattress, my hair is askew. I got back from the gym. I apologize for my appearance. A canvas cover, if you've ever dealt with anything canvas, you understand we're not talking much about comfort here. We're talking about something that is there just to cover. We're talking about a canvas cover of the mattress because the mattress has to be covered, not because, oh, we want something nice to sleep on. We want something warm to sleep under. And the third, which is sort of something that might not be as apparent on the top, something that might intuitively strike us as an impoverished setting from today's standards. We have two siblings sharing a bed. Oftentimes, I think especially in the world we live in today, everyone has their own bed, right? You don't share a bed with someone that you don't choose to share a bed with. We have here someone who is old enough to have bad dreams, sleeping in the same bed as someone who is old enough to want to look after that individual. So we are intuiting that these are both individuals which are old enough to warrant a bed of their own. And finally, a broken home, because now the degree of brokenness, why it's broken, we don't know yet. But we have that the other sibling, Prim, is crawling into bed with mother. Not mother and father, not mother and mother. We have no parental figures, just parental figure. There is no plural there. So we understand there is some degree of brokenness to this home, or we could intuit, we could figure that the other figure, the other parent, is simply out working at this time. If the other parent is out working during the morning hours, it's still not the greatest situation. So this call to action is reminiscent to me, this opening bit of normalcy we have from a fantasy novel is reminiscent to me of another book that we had here on the channel. I'm going to read you the first paragraph from Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. So that's the opening paragraph to the first Harry Potter. And we're going to read the opening paragraph to the second Harry Potter just for good measure. The opening paragraph to the second Harry Potter reads as such. Not for the first time, an argument had broken out over breakfast at number 4 Privet Drive. Mr. Vernon Dursley had been woken in the early hours of the morning by a loud hooting noise from his nephew Harry's room. This paragraph that comes to us from the Hunger Games, this opening paragraph has a normal household, has a mention of parental figures, has waking from sleep, has normalcy all over it. It is very reminiscent of the opening paragraphs from the Harry Potter series. The Hunger Games is less fantastical, but is every bit as fantastic. What we mean by that is that, what I mean by that, I don't know who we're speaking for here. What I mean by that is that the entire world is a new creation. The entire world that we're inhabiting here is a new creation that exists within an old country. The Hunger Games is the United States, Harry Potter is the United Kingdom. What we're doing is we're taking an old place, a place with which our reader is undoubtedly familiar. We're placing a character inside this world with which our reader might definitely identify. And we're stating that there's something a little bit odd. We're putting it out there, all of this normalcy, but why? Why are we putting out all this normalcy? It's just like whenever someone is sure to tell you how friendly they are to you, they're not being very friendly to you. Look, I've been your friend through thick and thin, but I've got to tell you, yada, yada, yada. Look, hey, you know me. I'm your friend. But I got to say, right, we're never in a good place with a friend when we hear how friendly that individual is being. So when we start a novel with, hey, I'm your regular world. You know me. We're not in your regular world. The next thing that I think is important to notice here is that we wake up without, we wake up with wanting. We wake up alone and next to the cold. And it does not surprise us. The Katniss character wakes up in this harsh condition on a canvas sheet, in this harsh condition, surrounded by cold and loneliness, in this stark condition of having been left. She wakes up in this area, in this condition, in this world. Hey, you know what it is. It is what it is. That's how Katniss is feeling. She understands what's going on. Katniss knows we're in trouble. The day of the reaping. Reaping. We are in the day of the reaping. We are in these stark conditions. We are waking with want. And that's just fine. Because of that, we get something right off the bat about our protagonist. We get a lot of things about our protagonist in this opening paragraph. This opening paragraph tells us who our protagonist is. Our opening protagonist is a daughter, or a child at least. We don't understand the gender yet. Our opening paragraph tells us that our protagonist is a sister, or a sibling at least. Again, we don't know the gender. But it also tells us that our protagonist is extremely practical. Our protagonist is someone who knows the importance of utility, understands that other people might be weaker. Our protagonist wakes up noticing a canvas cover, does not complain about it, reaches out for a sibling, noticing that the sibling is not there, and does not complain about it. Simply observes that this prim character is weaker than our protagonist, but does not say as much as that. Simply says, she must have had bad dreams and climbed in bed with our mother. Of course she did. Man. What a cold bitch, right? What a hardened character. What a stoic. We understand that our protagonist, the protagonist herein, the protagonist with which we will find ourselves throughout this novel, is stern. And the last thing that I think this opening paragraph is, the last thing at which I think this opening paragraph succeeds, look, this is the first time you'll hear this from me. There's a Neil Gaiman quote where he says that the second draft of a novel is to make our readers believe that we knew what we were doing all along. This opening paragraph does that, and the way that it does that is it sets up mystery. Why are we in a broken home? Why are we in an impoverished condition? And what is the day of the reaping? After all, none of this sounds particularly good. None of this sounds particularly pleasing. All of these things are threatening and harsh and difficult. They add difficulty to the character's life. And one thing that you have to notice about this novel, one thing at which this novel is exceedingly good, is to always leave our protagonist in a state of flux. One thing that not enough fiction does is to put our protagonist right in the shit. If you've seen Tropic Thunder, you know, put him in the shit, right? Forcing characters into the shit forces growth of the character, forces us to be able to reconcile with who that character is, who that character was, and why it is that that character is changing. And if that character is changing, as all protagonists should, unless it's at the point of the story that the protagonist doesn't change, yada, 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 as all protagonists should, then being there for that struggle allows us the ability to accept the change with the protagonist, but also, what is most key with literature, allows us, the reader, to change from the events surrounding the protagonist. This is quite possibly the point of all literature. The ability to change the individual through the acts that they have not endured, through struggles they have not endured. Richard Dawkins says that Richard Dawkins believes, I think this is Richard Dawkins, someone will correct me if I'm wrong. The point at which humans became humans was the point at which they could learn from the mistakes of others. From mistakes, in fact, that have not even yet been made. As in literature, we might be reading about mistakes that have not even been made in the real world yet. This is important. And it's all set up right here in this opening paragraph. If we are taking a character that's already at a state of struggle, and that character struggles mightily through the entire story before succeeding, it allows the reader to grow with the character and insinuates that the reader should be growing like the character does. Accepting no excuses, just growth, just movement, just change and progress. That is all I have for this, the opening paragraph of The Hunger Games. I hope to have you back on the channel for other videos in this series, but I also have a link to my personal channel in the drop box, the description box below. On my personal channel, I post videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and on this channel, I post videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Surprise!